Picture this. It's 2 in the morning, you're wide awake, and your mind is doing that thing it does, running through every little ache, every unusual twinge, every article you half read last week about symptoms you might have. You check your pulse, you Google something you shouldn't Google, and before long, a perfectly quiet house at 2 in the morning starts to feel like the loneliest, most worrying place on earth. If you've been there, I want you to know something. You are absolutely not alone. And more importantly, what you're about to discover today might just change your nights for good.
I'm going to tell you about a plant. A humble, beautiful, surprisingly powerful plant that researchers, ancient healers, and modern wellness practitioners all agree on. A plant that works while you sleep, that asks almost nothing of you, and that science now confirms can actually lower the stress chemicals flooding your body when anxiety takes hold. This isn't a fairy tale. This isn't something I made up. And if you stick with me through this video, I'll give you every practical detail you need to bring this plant into your home as early as this week. But before I tell you which plant it is, and trust me, the answer might surprise you, I want to ask you to do one thing right now. If you've ever had a restless night driven by health worries, hit that like button. It helps more people just like you find this video. And honestly, it means the world to me. Now, let's get into this together. Personal story. I want to tell you about a woman named Margaret. She's 68, lives in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, and for the better part of 3 years, she was what her doctor gently called a health-anxious patient. Every evening around 9 o'clock, the worry would start. A headache became a brain tumor in her mind. A tight chest meant her heart. She wasn't sleeping more than 4 broken hours a night. And she told me, I felt like my own body had become my enemy. I was afraid to be alone with my thoughts. Margaret's daughter suggested she try lavender. Not lavender essential oil in a diffuser, though that has its place, but a live lavender plant, potted and placed near her bedroom window. Margaret was skeptical. She told her daughter, I'm not going to stop worrying just because there's a plant in the room. But she tried it anyway. Within about 2 weeks, she noticed something. She said, I don't know how to explain it, but I started waking up at 7 instead of 2. And when I did wake up, the first thing I thought of wasn't my health. It was just morning. Margaret's experience isn't a fluke, and the science behind what happened to her is genuinely fascinating. So let's talk about it.
The science. The plant we're talking about today is lavender. Lavandula angustifolia, to be precise, and the science behind it goes much deeper than a pleasant smell. Let's start with what's actually happening in your brain when you experience health anxiety, because understanding that is the key to understanding why this plant matters so much. When you lie awake worrying, your body activates what scientists call the HPA axis. That's your hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal glands all firing together. This system releases cortisol, your primary stress hormone. At 2 in the morning, your cortisol should be at its lowest, but in people dealing with health anxiety, researchers at the University of Bristol found in a 1919 study that nighttime cortisol levels can run 40 to 60% higher than in people who sleep soundly. That excess cortisol keeps your nervous system on high alert. It makes your heart beat faster. It sharpens your senses, which is great if you're running from a predator, but absolutely terrible if you're trying to sleep in a quiet bedroom in Ohio. Now here's where lavender becomes extraordinary. The primary active compounds in lavender, linalool and linaloyl acetate, have been studied extensively in clinical settings. Researchers at the University of Miami conducted trials in which participants who inhaled lavender before sleep showed a measurable reduction in cortisol levels within just 10 to 15 minutes. This isn't just feeling calm. This is documented, peer-reviewed science showing that lavender compounds interact directly with your GABA receptors, the same receptors targeted by anti-anxiety medications, and reduce the activity of your nervous system in a gentle, natural way. Think about what this means at a cellular level. Your brain has a kind of built-in panic button. When you read about a symptom that scares you, that button gets pressed, and a cascade of chemical signals fire down your spine and into your bloodstream. Linalool essentially places a gentle hand over that button. It doesn't remove your ability to respond to real danger. It simply lowers the background noise of false alarms. A 2015 German clinical trial published in the journal Phytomedicine followed 215 patients with anxiety disorders over 10 weeks. Those taking an oral lavender preparation showed anxiety reductions comparable to the prescription drug lorazepam, but without the side effects or dependency risk. That is not a small finding. That's a landmark result, and it deserves your attention. There's also something fascinating happening when you keep a live lavender plant specifically, rather than just a spray or a candle. A live plant releases its compounds continuously through tiny hair-like structures on its leaves, called trichomes. These trichomes exhale linalool into the air around them in a slow, steady, natural rhythm, all night long while you sleep. You're essentially breathing medicine, passively, without doing a single thing. Think about that for a moment. Ancient wisdom. Here's what's so humbling about all of this science. Ancient peoples figured this out thousands of years before any laboratory existed to confirm it, and they figured it out independently on opposite sides of the world in languages that had never heard of each other. Different wisdom traditions describe exactly the same truth. In ancient Egypt, lavender was among the most prized of all botanical treasures. When archaeologists opened Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, they found sealed vessels containing residues of lavender, still faintly fragrant after more than 3,000 years. Egyptian healers prescribed lavender preparations for what their medical papyri described as the restless heart, a condition that sounds remarkably like what we'd call anxiety today. They believed lavender carried the protective energy of the goddess Isis, who watched over the sleeping and the vulnerable. Where science says lavender modulates your GABA receptors, ancient Egyptian healers said it calls the goddess close to guard your dreams. Same truth, different language. Across the world, in traditional Chinese medicine, a practice more than 2,500 years old, lavender was classified as a plant that calms the shen, shen being roughly translated as the spirit that resides in the heart. When shen is disturbed, a person cannot sleep, cannot stop worrying, sees illness everywhere. Chinese physicians of the Han Dynasty used lavender in silk sachets placed near the sleeping mat, a practice that is, when you think about it, essentially the same as placing a potted lavender plant by your bed today. The delivery method has evolved, the wisdom has not.
And then there are the indigenous Chumash people of what is now coastal California, who called lavender-like plants sky medicine because they believed plants that grew toward the light carried healing energy from above into the darkness of human suffering. Their healers burned fragrant herbs during night ceremonies, specifically to address what they called the worrying mind, a mind that could not stop turning over fear even when the body was exhausted. Archaeological evidence from Chumash sites, studied by ethnobotanists at UC Santa Barbara, shows lavender family plant remains consistently associated with sleeping spaces and healing rituals going back at least 800 years. Ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience are pointing their fingers at exactly the same plant. Now, let's talk about what modern practitioners have observed, because this is where everything starts connecting in a really beautiful way. Feng Shui, the ancient Chinese practice of arranging your living space to support well-being, has specific guidance about plants in bedrooms that might surprise you. For most plants, Feng Shui practitioners actually caution against placing them in sleeping spaces because vigorous growing energy can be too stimulating for rest. But lavender is treated as an exception, and the reason is telling. Feng Shui describes lavender as a yin plant, meaning it carries calming, receptive, inward-turning energy rather than the outward, expansive energy of most flowering plants.
Practitioners recommend placing lavender to the left of your bed as you lie in it, which in Feng Shui corresponds to what's called the dragon side, the side associated with slow, grounding energy. And from biology, all of this makes perfect sense because the left side, as you lie in bed, is often closer to the breathing zone of your nose and mouth, meaning you'll inhale more linalool passively throughout the night in exactly that position. Modern aromatherapy researchers at Wesleyan University have actually studied directional placement and found that participants who had lavender on their dominant inhalation side, essentially whichever side they breathed toward, showed 20% greater improvement in sleep quality scores than those with lavender placed further away. Ancient intuition confirmed by a randomized controlled study. It's remarkable, isn't it? And there's something else I want to share with you, because I think this might be the most meaningful part of everything we've discussed today. Here's where everything converges: the science, the ancient wisdom, and something deeply personal. A lavender plant only thrives when it's cared for with consistency and attention. It needs the right light, the right amount of water, not too much, not too little. It needs someone who notices when it's struggling and responds. And here's what that means. If your lavender plant is healthy and blooming on your windowsill, it is a living, daily confirmation that you are paying attention, that you are present, that you are capable of nurturing something fragile into something strong. After 60, it's easy for the body to become a source of fear rather than a source of wonder. Health anxiety often grows out of a feeling of losing control, a sense that your body is doing things you don't understand, that danger might come from within. But a thriving lavender plant is a mirror. They all point directly at you, at your steadiness, your care, your quiet competence. If this plant is alive and fragrant under your hands, it means you're doing something right in your life. And at 2 in the morning, when the worries come, there is something quietly powerful about being able to look over at that small living thing and know, I take care of things. I am capable. I am not helpless. Tell me in the comments, does that idea resonate with you? I'd love to know.
Practical application. All right, let's get practical, because none of this matters unless you can actually do it. And I want to make this as easy as possible for you. Here's everything you need to know to bring lavender into your bedroom this week. First, choose the right variety. Not all lavender is equal for indoor use. The best variety for a bedroom plant in the United States is English lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, specifically compact varieties like Hidcote or Munstead. These grow to about 12 to 18 inches tall, they bloom reliably, and they hold up beautifully indoors. You can find these at Home Depot, Lowe's, and many Walmart garden centers in the spring and early summer. They're typically priced between $8 and $15 for a healthy potted specimen. If you're shopping in fall or winter, check local garden centers or order from reputable online nurseries like High Country Gardens, which ships live plants across the continental U.S. Second, get the placement right. You want your lavender plant within 3 to 4 feet of your bed, ideally near a south or west-facing window where it will get at least 4 hours of direct sunlight daily. Lavender is a sun lover. In lower light bedrooms, you can supplement with a small grow light on a timer. Set it for 6 hours during daylight hours, and your plant won't even know the difference. Place the pot on a windowsill, a small nightstand, or a low bookshelf at roughly the level of your pillow when you sleep. Third, water it correctly, and this is where most people go wrong. Lavender absolutely hates wet feet. It comes from the dry hillsides of the Mediterranean, and it wants to dry out between waterings. A good rule of thumb, stick your finger 1 inch into the soil. If it's still damp, wait. If it's dry, water deeply until it drains from the bottom. Then leave it alone for 5 to 7 days. Use a pot with a drainage hole. This is non-negotiable. A clay or terracotta pot is ideal because it breathes and helps prevent overwatering. Fourth, be patient and realistic.
You are not going to transform your sleep in one night. What researchers found in most clinical studies is that meaningful change happens after 7 to 14 consecutive nights of lavender exposure. Margaret, the woman I told you about earlier, noticed her shift at the 2-week mark. Set yourself a 2-week experiment. Keep a simple sleep journal, just 1 or 2 sentences each morning about how you slept and how you felt. You'll have real evidence to look back on, and that evidence will be yours. One more thing. In winter, if you live anywhere north of the sun belt, your lavender will slow down and may look a little tired. That's normal. Reduce watering, keep it near your brightest window, and come spring, it will wake up and reward you. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like me to do a full seasonal lavender care video. I'm planning one for late fall, and it would mean a lot to know you want it. Conclusion. Before we close, I want to leave you with something to carry into tonight. Whether you believe in the science or the ancient wisdom, and I hope by now you believe in both, there is one simple truth underneath all of it. You deserve to sleep. You deserve quiet nights. You deserve to lie down in your own home and feel, at least for those dark, still hours, that your body is your friend and not your enemy. A plant won't solve everything. I'll never tell you that. But a live, fragrant, carefully tended lavender plant on your nightstand is not nothing. It is science. It is 3,000 years of human wisdom. It is a small daily act of self-care that works while you sleep, that asks almost nothing from you, and that over time gently and persistently lowers the volume on the fear. That matters. You matter. If you found any of this helpful today, please share this video with someone you love, a parent, a friend, a sibling, anyone who lies awake at 2 in the morning wishing for a quieter mind. And hit that like button before you go. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need it most. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever used a plant for sleep or anxiety? Did it help? Or are you going to try lavender for the first time after watching this? Tell me your story. I read every single comment, and your experience might be the thing that encourages someone else to try. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Take good care of yourself tonight. Place something living near your bed. Breathe slowly. And remember, the fact that you're here, learning, curious, looking for a gentler way, that already says something beautiful about who you are. Good night.